The rain lashed against the windshield of Dr. Alexander Voss's car as he navigated the winding road leading into the mountains. Thick mist rolled down from the peaks, shrouding the ancient pines in a spectral gloom. The headlights barely penetrated the suffocating darkness, and the further he drove, the more isolated the world behind him seemed. In the passenger seat, a single envelope lay atop his worn leather briefcase. The letter inside had arrived at his London office 3 days prior, an unsigned plea for help, written in trembling handwriting. Dr. Voss, your expertise is required urgently at Ravencroft Asylum. A patient foresees death before it happens. She is not the only one. Come before it is too late. There was no contact number, no official seal, only the name of a place long whispered about in the psychiatric community. Ravencroft. A relic of an era when mental illness was treated with cruelty rather than care. He had heard rumors of its decline, of cases that defied logic, of inexplicable occurrences that had driven even the most seasoned doctors to madness. And now here he was. The silhouette of the asylum emerged through the storm, looming at the top of a desolate hill. Jagged spires clawed at the sky, black against the shifting clouds. A single light burned in the highest tower, flickering weakly as though resisting the crushing weight of darkness. He parked near the rusting iron gates, their intricate designs long corroded by time and neglect. The wind howled as he stepped out, rain soaking through his coat within seconds. The scent of wet earth mixed with something far more putrid, a cloying, decayed stench that sent an involuntary shiver down his spine. The gates groaned as he pushed them open. The gravel path leading to the main entrance was uneven, littered with broken stones and twisted roots that had crept through the cracks of time. As he approached the great wooden doors, something made him pause. A whisper. Faint, almost imperceptible beneath the roar of the storm. Dr. Voss. His breath hitched. The voice, a woman's, had come from somewhere nearby, but when he turned, the courtyard was empty. Only the wind stirred the dead leaves, swirling them around the stone gargoyles perched along the asylum's facade. Shaking off the unease, he reached for the heavy brass knocker and rapped twice. Silence followed. Then the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from the other side. The door creaked open, revealing a man in a long, dark coat. His gaunt face was illuminated by the flickering light of an oil lantern. You came, the man murmured, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. Alexander nodded. I received your letter. The man stepped aside, motioning him in. Then you know why we sent for you. Alexander entered, the door groaning shut behind him. The air inside was stale, thick with the weight of secrets left to rot. The dim corridor stretched before him, lined with doors that bore the scratches of countless fingernails. Faint murmurs and occasional sobs drifted from unseen rooms, the whispers of the lost and the damned. The man led him deeper into the asylum. Candles cast wavering shadows along the stone walls, making them seem alive. I am Dr. Elias Mercer. The man finally introduced himself. I have worked here for 20 years, but in the past 6 months, things have changed. How so? Alexander asked, his voice steady despite the unease curling in his gut. Dr. Mercer stopped outside a locked door. The metal plaque read, Patient 42, Evelyn Gray. She sees death, Dr. Voss. Mercer exhaled shakily. And every time she does, it happens. Alexander studied the door. From inside, something moved, something slow, deliberate. Then a whisper softer than the last. Dr. Voss. I've been waiting for you. A chill clawed down his spine. He had never met her before. But she already knew his name. Dr. Alexander Voss stared at the door, his pulse quickening. The voice was unmistakable, soft, almost melodic, yet carrying a weight of sorrow that made his skin prickle. Dr. Mercer gestured toward the heavy lock securing the door. We keep it bolted at all times, he explained, his voice barely above a whisper. Not for her safety but for ours. Alexander frowned. Has she shown aggression? Mercer shook his head. Not in the way you might expect. The things she sees, they change people. They break them. With a metallic clank, Mercer unlocked the door and pushed it open. The room beyond was dimly lit by a single oil lamp. Against the far wall, a frail young woman sat cross-legged on her cot, her thin fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air. Her long, dark hair fell in tangled waves around her pale face, obscuring her expression. She did not look up immediately. Instead, she whispered as if speaking to someone unseen. They're all here, she murmured. Watching. Waiting. Alexander took a cautious step forward. Evelyn Gray, he said. At his voice, she slowly lifted her head. Her eyes, dark, sunken, yet disturbingly clear, fixed on him, and a slow, knowing smile curved her lips. "You're late, Dr. Voss," she said, tilting her head. "They told me you would come." A cold, unexplainable dread settled in his chest. "Who told you?" She exhaled softly. "The ones who don't belong here. The ones you can't see." Behind him, Mercer shifted uneasily. "Evelyn." She ignored him. Instead, her gaze locked onto Alexander's face with unsettling intensity. "You're different from the others," she said, her tone almost reverent. "But it won't save you." A flicker of movement in the corner of the room made Alexander glance away from her, just for a second. But when he looked back, her expression had changed. The knowing smile was gone, replaced by something more, horrified. Her breath hitched. Oh no." Alexander's blood ran cold. "What?" Her pupils dilated. "I see you now. I see your end." The air in the room thickened. The lamp flickered violently. Shadows on the walls stretched and twisted, taking on nightmarish shapes. Then Evelyn screamed. The sound was not human, it was something raw, something ancient. The very walls seemed to tremble with it. And outside the room, down the darkened corridor, the other patients began to whisper his name. The scream tore through the asylum like a blade slicing through silence. It was raw, primal, a sound that did not belong to this world. Dr. Alexander Voss recoiled, his pulse hammering as Evelyn Gray convulsed on her cot. Her frail body twisted, her hands clawing at the air as if fighting off unseen horrors. Dr. Mercer rushed forward, gripping her shoulders. "Evelyn, listen to me." Her eyes rolled back, and for a moment all sound ceased. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the fit subsided. Her body went limp, her breathing shallow. When her eyes fluttered open again, she was different. So empty. She turned her head slowly toward Alexander, her expression eerily calm. "They're closer now," she whispered. A chill crawled up his spine. "Who is closer?" Evelyn's lips parted as if to answer, but instead she exhaled sharply, her eyes darting to something behind him. A shadow. It moved in the dim candlelight, shifting unnaturally along the wall, stretching and contorting in ways that defied logic. Alexander spun around, but the corridor behind him was empty. And yet, he could feel it. The weight of unseen eyes pressing down on him. Dr. Mercer swallowed hard. "We need to leave. Now." Alexander hesitated, glancing back at Evelyn. She sat motionless, staring at the ceiling, whispering under her breath. It was a language he did not recognize. Mercer pulled at his sleeve. "Dr. Voss. We have to go." Reluctantly, he stepped away. The moment the door shut behind them, the whispers began anew, this time not just from Evelyn's room. The entire hallway trembled with hushed voices, murmuring his name over and over. Alexander exhaled sharply. "What the hell is happening here?" Mercer led him quickly down the corridor, his expression grim. "This place is sick, Dr. Voss. And I fear it's dying." They reached Mercer's office, a cramped, candlelit room lined with ancient tomes and scattered patient files. The wind howled through a cracked window, carrying the scent of damp decay. Mercer poured a glass of amber liquid and downed it in one swallow before turning to Alexander. "Evelyn Gray arrived here 6 months ago. She was found wandering the streets of London, delirious, half-starved. When the police brought her in, she wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat. Then one day, she began to talk. And everything changed." Alexander leaned forward. "Changed how?" Mercer's fingers tightened around the glass. She knew things she had no way of knowing. Private thoughts. Dark secrets. She predicted the exact time and manner of a nurse's death 3 days before it happened. She said she could see it, like a vision playing out in front of her eyes. Alexander frowned. "And you believe her?" Mercer gave a hollow laugh. "I didn't. Not at first. But then she started seeing more. Not just death, but them. The ones who whisper. The ones who wait. And now, Dr. Voss, she has seen your end." A cold weight settled in Alexander's chest. The asylum, the voices, Evelyn's knowing eyes, it all felt like a nightmare made flesh. He ran a hand through his damp hair. "I need to speak with her again." Mercer hesitated. "Dr. Voss. If she sees my death, I need to know how. And when." A long silence. Then Mercer sighed, rubbing his temples. "Very well. But I pray you are ready for what you'll find." Outside, the whispers grew louder, slithering through the air like fingers grasping in the dark. And somewhere within the asylum, a door creaked open on its own. The candlelight flickered violently as if something unseen had passed through the room. Dr. Alexander Voss barely had time to register the movement before a sharp knock echoed from the hallway. 3 precise raps. Mercer stiffened, his face draining of color. No one should be awake at this hour. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Alexander moved toward the door, but Mercer grabbed his arm. Wait. Pause. Then from the other side a voice, thin, rasping, whispered, Dr. Voss, it's waiting for you. Alexander's breath caught in his throat. He yanked the door open. No one was there. The hallway stretched into darkness, empty except for the distant flicker of a dying lantern. The whispers had stopped, leaving only the low creak of the building settling in the wind. Mercer exhaled shakily. We need to see Evelyn. Now. They hurried through the winding corridors, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and something older. Alexander's heartbeat pounded in his ears. Every door they passed bore deep scratches, claw marks gouged into the wood. The patients inside remained eerily silent, their presence felt but unseen. When they reached Evelyn's room, the door was ajar. Mercer hesitated, then pushed it open. Evelyn sat on the cot, motionless, her hands resting in her lap. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. Across the walls, fresh scratches marred the surface, symbols carved deep into the wood, looping and jagged, like the remnants of a forgotten language. Alexander stepped inside cautiously. Evelyn. She turned her head slowly. It's here. His throat tightened. What is? She lifted a trembling hand and pointed to the space behind him. Alexander turned. A shadow stood in the doorway. Not cast by candlelight. Not a trick of the eye. It was tall, impossibly thin, its edges shifting like smoke caught in a storm. It had no face, and yet he felt its gaze burrowing into his soul. Then it moved. The door slammed shut. The door slammed shut with a force that sent a gust of cold air rippling through the room. The candlelight flickered wildly, shadows stretching unnaturally along the cracked walls. Dr. Alexander Voss's breath caught in his throat as he turned back to Evelyn. She was staring at the door, her body rigid, her pupils wide with terror. It's inside now, she whispered. Dr. Mercer fumbled for the lantern, his fingers trembling. No, he muttered under his breath. No, this isn't happening. A slow, deliberate creak echoed through the room. The air thickened, pressing against Alexander's chest. He could feel it, the presence, the weight of unseen eyes burrowing into his mind. Then a voice. Not spoken. Not heard. But felt. Dr. Voss. The syllables scraped against his thoughts, cold and hollow. He spun around, searching for the source, but there was nothing, only the shifting darkness bending at the edges of his vision. Evelyn whimpered, curling into herself. He's watching. He's always watching. Mercer's voice was hoarse. Oh, who is watching? She lifted a trembling hand and pointed. The shadows deepened. The air turned frigid. And then Alexander saw it. A figure, impossibly tall, standing against the far wall. Its body was elongated, emaciated, its limbs too long, its fingers thin as needles. No eyes. No mouth. Just a hollow, gaping void where its face should have been. It didn't move. But it was there. Alexander's pulse pounded. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to get as far away as possible, but his body refused to obey. He could only stare as the thing shifted. Not with motion but with intention. As if it existed in the space between moments, stretching toward him without ever actually moving. Evelyn sobbed. Don't let it touch you. Don't let it in. Alexander swallowed hard. What does it want? Her gaze met his, glassy and unfocused. It wants what it always wants. The ones who see. The ones who know. Mercer grabbed Alexander's arm. We need to go. Now. But as soon as he spoke, the figure reacted. The shadows convulsed and suddenly it was closer. Just a few feet away now. Looming. A void where a face should have been, impossibly hollow, impossibly vast. Evelyn shrieked. The lantern sputtered. And the darkness swallowed everything. Darkness swallowed the room as the door slammed shut, sealing Dr. Alexander Voss inside with the thing that had been waiting for him. The air thickened, pressing against his chest like unseen hands. He could hear Evelyn whispering, her voice trembling but steady. You must listen, Dr. Voss. There is still time. He turned toward her, his breath coming in short gasps. Time for what? Evelyn's wide eyes locked onto his. To break the cycle. To end it. The shadow loomed behind him, stretching toward him, its form shifting like black smoke given purpose. Cold fingers brushed the back of his neck, sending a violent shudder through his body. He stumbled forward, toward Evelyn. Tell me how, he demanded. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You must promise. Promise what? The shadow lashed forward. A deep, guttural growl resonated through the walls. The symbols carved into the room's surfaces began to glow faintly, pulsating like a dying heartbeat. The whispers in the asylum rose to a fever pitch, overlapping in a symphony of sorrow and despair. Evelyn reached for his hand, her cold fingers closing around his. Promise to remember them. To speak their names. That is the only way they will ever rest. They have been forgotten for too long. That is why they remain. The truth struck him like a thunderclap. This place was not haunted by ghosts seeking vengeance. It was haunted by the souls who had been abandoned, left to rot in an asylum that the world chose to forget. Their pain had festered, twisting into something darker, something hungering for recognition. The entity behind him roared, its form rippling violently. It was the embodiment of their suffering, the weight of unfulfilled promises and lost voices. Dr. Voss tightened his grip on Evelyn's hand. I promise, I will tell their story. I will make sure they are remembered. The whispering stopped. For a single agonizing moment, the entire asylum held its breath. Then the shadow let out an unearthly shriek, and the walls trembled. A blinding light burst through the room, and Alexander felt himself falling. Until he was standing outside the asylum gates. The storm had passed. The night was eerily silent. He turned back, expecting to see the looming spires of Ravencroft, but the building was gone. Nothing remained but an empty field, the grass untouched, as though the asylum had never existed at all. Dr. Voss stumbled forward, his mind reeling. Had it been real? Or had it been a waking nightmare? In his pocket something crinkled. He pulled out a small yellowed piece of paper. A patient's file. The name written at the top made his breath hitch. Evelyn Gray. But the date of death was marked 50 years ago. A cold wind swept past him, carrying a whisper so soft he almost believed he imagined it. Thank you. Dr. Alexander Voss kept his promise. He told their story. And though the world doubted him, though people dismissed his words as the ramblings of a man too deep in his own mind, he never wavered. Because he knew the truth. And now so do you. This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real persons, places, or events is purely coincidental.